A Mother's Journey of Faith, The Girls Never Leave, Finding the Garden, Healing the Fracture, and Understanding the Women We Become. Susanna Sunday, mothersfaith.xyz's copyright. Copyright Susanna Sunday, 2026. Published, all rights reserved, with all licensing and all rights protected. No part of this publication may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the copyright holder, except for brief quotations used in reviews or other uses permitted by law. This is a literary and pastoral work. It is not a substitute for medical, psychological, legal, or emergency advice. Published by mothersfaith.xyz's Acknowledgments for my bridegroom Jesus Christ, who gave me, the mother of faith, and the children that brought the faith out of me, to all my family. Introduction. The Fracture in the Garden. No one wakes up a parent. It is a simple truth, yet we live as though it isn't. We expect a woman to hold her newborn and instantly possess the emotional architecture required to raise a human being. We expect a man to look at his child and immediately know how to protect, provide, and nurture without repeating the mistakes of his own father. But every mother was first a baby, then a child, then a girl who needed nurturing herself. Every father was the same. The capacity to parent, or the lack of it, is shaped long before the child arrives. We are, all of us, grown children trying to raise children, and we cannot give what we do not have. To understand why we struggle, why our wiring sometimes feels crossed, and why the women we become carry such specific heavy burdens, we have to go back to the beginning. In the Garden of Eden, before the fall, there was perfect security. If you have ever watched a baby sleep, you have seen a glimpse of this. A baby does not worry about tomorrow's provision. They do not lie awake anxious about the economy or their health or whether they are loved. They simply know they are held. That is how God intended for all of us to feel. But when the fracture happened in the garden, humanity did not just lose their unbroken relationship with God. They lost the perfect father-son and father-daughter relationship. That fracture has existed ever since. It appears in our homes, in our marriages, and in the siblings who act as mirrors, reflecting the brokenness between Adam and Eve. And yet, when we look at the fractures in our own families, we rarely trace them back to the garden. We think they just happened. We think our spouse is just difficult. We think our child is just stubborn. We think we are just failing. This book is about naming that fracture. It is about the emotional wiring of women, the special needs journey, the arrival of menopause, and the deep, unspoken needs of the little girl who never actually leaves. And it is for the man who wants to understand the women in his life, his mother, his spouse, his friends, and his daughter. When a woman says to her husband, "I just need you to listen," she is not asking for a solution. She is not asking for him to fix the problem, call the school, or balance the budget. She is asking for the garden. She is asking for the listening ear of the Father that existed before the fracture, not the hard labor of fixing and problem-solving that came after the fall. When a man understands that the woman standing in front of him is, at her core, a girl asking for the safety of the garden, it changes everything. He stops trying to fix her. He starts offering her a safe harbor. Chapter 1. The Invisible Wiring. The special needs mother knows from the beginning that something is different. When the diagnosis comes, or when the milestones are missed, when the child is 2 and still not speaking, or when the sensory meltdowns make a trip to the grocery store impossible, the reality is undeniable. As painful as that awareness is, it is actually a strange kind of gift. She is forced to look at the reality, to name it, and to seek help. If God wants to teach you how straight a path is supposed to be, He will rarely teach it to you while you are walking on a straight, smooth road. He teaches it through the crookedness, the bent curves, and the deep manholes in the road. That is what the special needs journey is. It is a classroom built out of brokenness. But what happens to the mother who thinks she has a neurotypical child when in actual fact the emotional wiring is broken? She thinks she has drawn the long straw. She looks at the special needs mother and feels a quiet relief that her own path is easier. But broken wiring can remain invisible for decades. A child who is highly efficient, who gets good grades, who speaks well and achieves highly can still have profound gaps in their emotional wiring. People take it for granted that if a person can speak and think, they can automatically comprehend emotional nuance. But there is a massive gap when emotional needs cannot be put into words. It is only 30 or 40 years down the line, after the marriages have fractured, after the relationships have failed, after the patterns have repeated endlessly, that the person finally discovers it was never their fault. It was the wiring. We must stop over-spiritualizing these issues. In many faith communities, the default response to a broken family dynamic is to pray over it and leave it there. But if we refuse to name the actual psychological and emotional wiring that is causing the fracture, there is no support system. The child grows up thinking they are just difficult or selfish or lacking understanding. In reality, each child is a mirror. They are modeling to the mother what is lacking or what is present within the union of the parents. Name it, see it, get support for it. Because if you do not, the next generation will carry it forward unnamed. Chapter 2. The Woven Tapestry of Strength. Incubation, growth, and nurturing are biologically and spiritually attached to the nature of a woman. From the moment she is born, up until she becomes a mother, and even for those who never have biological children, but still nurture their families and communities, that fabric of strength is woven into her. God put it there. Think about the sheer physical reality of being a woman. The monthly cycle, the bleeding, the debilitating cramps, the mood swings, the post-menstrual shifts. The body goes through immense changes every single month. These changes are supposed to alert us to the daily rhythms we need to account for. We learn about it in biology class, but we get home and forget it, because society tells us we are supposed to push through as if it isn't happening. Therein lies the disconnect. What we know naturally, we do not apply to our daily lives. And when a woman begins to actually listen to her body and adjust her life accordingly, people call her philosophical, or worse, difficult. But the moment it becomes real, when a child grows in the womb, or when a situation is thrust upon you, and you suddenly love a vulnerable little one more than your own life, that is when the questions begin. And just when a woman thinks she has it all together, just when she has grasped the rhythm of her life and is ready to roll with it, bam, menopause arrives. Menopause does not just come with age. Sometimes the body enters it early because it is dysfunctioning from years of chronic stress. The special needs mother is on the go so constantly she barely has time to eat. Her cortisol levels are sky high. She gains weight. She wakes up in the night with joint pains so severe she cannot walk. And what does the world tell her? You are lazy. You eat too much. You need to exercise more. How many women have been called lazy when they were simply trying to survive the life that was given to them? The cortisol, the hormonal shifts, the sleepless years, the physical cost of carrying everyone else, all of it is invisible to the people making the judgment. And yet all of this pain, all of this exhaustion is part of the woven tapestry of strength given to the woman by God. He did not give her the burden without giving her the tools, but you have to know where to look. You have to stop looking at the world's standard of success and start looking at the garden. Chapter 3: The Human Experience in the Broken Places. When life-altering events happen, when the diagnosis is confirmed, when the marriage fractures, when the body begins to fail, how do people actually feel? Some feel left behind. They look at their peers who are advancing in their careers, taking holidays, and raising neurotypical children. And they feel a quiet, suffocating conviction that they are failing. They believe that because their life is difficult, they are not successful. They think they have missed the boat. But this whole time, you have not been failing. You have been in the process. Imagine the life of a child who is nonverbal, who has broken limbs, who cannot be in certain places, cannot tolerate certain sounds, cannot do the things the world considers basic, who will never hold a pen, never drive a car, never say the word mom out loud. Imagine their life. And yet, in that brokenness, God is teaching. Not despite it, through it. The first Adam brought the fracture. The last Adam, Christ, is the redemption. We are not yet fully restored, but we are being taught, one day at a time, how to live here in the in-between. The human experience in its broken form is not a mistake. It is the very place where God shows us what He is redeeming us back to. The perfect life we glimpse in the garden, the security, the wholeness, the unbroken relationship between father and child, that is where we are headed. But until then, He is teaching us, one broken woman at a time, one broken mother at a time, one day at a time. This is why the support of other human beings matters so deeply. The wisdom that comes from lived experience cannot be manufactured. The accountability of a person who has sat on the same kitchen floor at 2 a.m., who has stretched the same budget across the same impossible costs, who has felt the same shame of being called lazy when they were simply surviving. That person's presence in your life is not a luxury. It is part of the classroom. Without support, people give up. Not because they are weak, but because no human being was designed to carry the weight of the post-fall world alone. The Father never intended for us to. That is why He placed us in families, in communities, and in the body of Christ. Even in the broken form, the community is the answer. Chapter 4: The Classroom. Sarahâ did not arrive at wisdom through a seminar or a conference. She arrived at it through the crooked path of her children's lives. Their brokenness was the classroom. Their silence, their diagnoses, their daily needs, all of it was God teaching her things she could not have learned on a straight, smooth road. And so the question must be asked of every one of us: what is He using your brokenness to teach you? Are you listening or not? Your spouse is not difficult. You are both in a classroom writing an exam. Your siblings are not difficult. You are all in a classroom writing an exam. Your parents are not difficult. You are all in a classroom writing an exam. That single shift in perspective dismantles every grievance, every blame, every exhausted question of, why is this person so hard to love? It replaces it with a completely different question, not what is wrong with them, but what is God teaching me through them? When you stop looking at your family members as obstacles to your peace and start looking at them as mirrors reflecting the areas where you still need the garden, the entire dynamic changes. You stop fighting the mirror. You start asking the Father to heal the fracture. Chapter 5: Sarah's Letter. If Sarahâ, the mother who has walked through the fire of the special needs journey, the exhaustion, the early menopause, and the deep self-discovery, could speak to the women coming up behind her, this is what she would say. To the young woman growing up, the transformation is coming. Have the confidence to know that every skill set you require is already inbuilt by your Creator. And if you are unable to do something, it does not mean you are weak. It simply means you do not have the wiring for it. That is not a failure. It is a boundary. And that is when you ask for the extra strength that God gives to accomplish what He has called you to do. Do not apologize for the way you are wired. Learn it. Honor it. To the woman she has become, look in the mirror. You will see the tired, resilient woman who survived, but look closer. The little girl is still there. She never left. She is the one who hoped, who dreamed, who believed that her father would come through for her. Honor her. Give her the garden she has been asking for. Stop trying to fix everything with the hard labor of the fall, and let yourself be held. To the ones who died not knowing, to the women in Hebrews 11 who passed away without seeing the promise fulfilled, who carried the heavy wiring, the undiagnosed children, the silent pain, and went to the grave thinking they had failed. You did not fail. Your faithfulness in the dark was recorded in heaven. You were not forgotten. The promise did not expire when you did. To those still living in denial, to the women who want to spiritualize everything, who refuse to look at the wiring, who insist they have just been dealt a bad hand and refuse to seek the practical, human support they need. Stop running. The pain you are glossing over is the very place where your self-discovery begins. Name it. Seek the wisdom of those who have walked the crooked path before you. You do not have to carry this alone. Conclusion: the classroom headache. One day, we will all wake up in heaven. When you wake up in heaven, there will be no more pain. The joints will not ache. The cortisol will settle. The children who could not speak will sing. The limbs that were broken will run. The minds that were wired differently will finally be at rest in the presence of the one who designed them. And in that moment, looking back, you will realize that Earth was not a waiting room. It was a classroom. You passed the test not because you found a cure, not because you fixed the wiring, and not because you achieved worldly success. You passed the test based upon how you understood the test questions. You learned to find the garden in the middle of the thorns. You learned to listen. You learned to trust the God who coded the galaxy and coded your life. If you outlive your child, consider it mercy. The same God who placed that child in your arms knew the beginning and the end of that life before a single day of it was lived. You were not failed. You were trusted with something precious for the time that was given. And if your child outlives you, if you go before you see how their story ends, before the miracle comes, before the question is answered, consider that mercy too. According to Hebrews 11, there are those who died in faith without receiving what was promised. They saw it from a distance. They embraced it. And God was not ashamed to be called their God. The same one who was at the beginning will see to its completion. That promise does not expire when you do. In that lies the girl's deepest comfort. She is standing beside a father who does not abandon his promises. Whatever he has spoken over your life, over your child's life, over the broken and the unfinished and the unanswered, he will deliver it in his time, in his way, in the fullness of what he intended from the very beginning. They just finally make it home. The girls never leave.